Welcome, everybody, to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Thanks for joining us. We do always appreciate it for some conversations and some craft beer. I am Tim Dennis. Brian Hewitt, how's it going today?
Not too bad. Not too bad. I'm here, and man, the weather sucks.
The weather does suck. Yeah. So we are, as you know, probably we're in Georgia, and we don't get, well, we do get some brutally cold. Not this time of year, though, but it's colder than I would like it to be. And I was just thinking earlier, I've seen, I'm a husky fella. For those that haven't seen me, I'm a big dude. And so a lot of clothes don't really come in my size, but I want an electric hoodie, like an electric blanket. I just want a hoodie that warms up. And I know they have socks that do that because my dad did some hunting when I was younger, and he had electric socks to go hunting in. You put little 9-volt batteries in the top of them, and they warmed you up, man. They warmed you up.
I'll just get some electric boxer shorts, and I'll be fine for all of my meetings throughout the day.
That's all you need, just the boxers.
That's all I need.
Warms up all the important parts.
That's all I wear. So, I mean, that's enough, right?
Yeah. Good enough, man. Nate, how are you doing?
I dealt with wet socks and getting rained on all day because while you boys were working from home in your offices, I still am working outside. And so
sounds awful. That sounds just terrible.
And honestly, I don't know if I want an electric hoodie with all the moisture that was falling out of the sky because the risk of getting electrocuted while on the job. I don't think workers' comp covers being electrocuted by my electrified hoodie that keeps me warm.
Yeah.
How big of a battery would you have in that hoodie to get electrocuted? That's my question.
Nate's rocking a car battery in his. He's got a backpack. So
a wheelbarrow to push his
a generator. Got a generator pushing out 110 on his hoodie there. Yeah, that would be it.
My jackery strapped to my back.
Yeah. For what it's worth, if you did get shocked by your electric hoodie, you wouldn't care about the cold anymore or the rain.
Good point.
For the most part. Yeah. So actually, I imagine the amount of power there would just be annoying, Nate. It would just be annoying, uncomfortable. So you would still care, but then you will also have been shocked.
And then cold,
wet, shocked.
Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you should try it out and see what you think.
Don't knock it until you fried it, right? I mean, yeah, exactly. Cheers to Tyler. Tyler checking in from Texas, and he's drinking a Clown Shoes Pumpkin Sombrero Stout. So I'm guessing that is a pumpkin Mexican stout.
Probably.
That sounds like it by the name there. It sounds very Clown Shoesy, too.
Did they ever come back to our state? I know they were famously involved with a dispute with a distributor that worked out badly. Yeah.
They did come back after that, but I don't know. You know, a lot of places were here and then they weren't, and then they were again and then they weren't. Like, what's the one out in New York? 6 Point?
Oh, yeah. 6 Point.
They were here for a while, and they had, they had some good stuff, and then they did not come back. And I think I heard from the distributor, one of the issues with them is they had large purchase minimums, like the amount of beer you had to buy, and apparently they were not moving enough in Georgia to justify that. And I do remember seeing, out of date product from them out there. They just weren't moving like they needed to stay on the shelves here.
When it was fresh, it was great. I really forget what their double IPA was, but
was it resin? Was that
resin?
Is that it?
If you could get resin fresh, it was awesome. I think that at some point, because it was hard to tell with their cans what the style of beer was, they changed up the labeling to make it clearer what was in them, which actually is a really good idea because I didn't even know, and I was a fan of some of their stuff. But I knew resin was great. So
I don't think they said the style at all for a while, did they? Nope. It was just like the name. So
just the name. Yeah. You just had to know. You had to just know what it was. So for a while, when you could just put beer on the shelves, it would disappear and fly off immediately. And that was fine. But now people are like, I'm not going to buy it if I don't know what it is. And that was the reason I didn't buy a lot of their stuff, is like, I'm not going to find out by buying a 6-pack or a 4-pack or whatever. I want to know what it is before I get into that. So
they hit their hype moment when you were still able to be an out-of-state brewery. And if you had a beer good enough, everybody knew about it, because people were searching those beers down. I think that's, it's not impossible now, but definitely a lot harder. That they would be like Old Nation M43 when it came to Georgia. That was one that its reputation preceded it here. And I think they said they came in and they did a drop here. Old Nation did a drop for a beer festival we had, a special beer fest. And they mentioned that the reception was so good there that they did decide to come in on an ongoing basis. So I think we still see fresh stuff from them hitting the shelves out there.
Yep. It does show up from time to time. Yep. Good stuff.
Well, guys, speaking of beer, let's get into our beers of the week. Brian, what are you sipping on this week?
So I pre-gamed with Quick Trip's Quittin' Time Premium Beer, which is a cream ale brewed by Marshall Brewing in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We found it this weekend. It's in our now. Quick Trips. Yeah. I didn't think it was going to get out of Oklahoma, but here it is, and it's a fine beer, and I was excited. And they actually had a sign out in front of one of the gas stations, and stopped in to specifically just to get the beer. So, yeah, happy to see that again. It's a quality beer. It's a great beer, and I love it. Like I love the look of it. I love the name of it. It's perfect for something to crack open at 5 o'clock, and it's quitting time. Anyway,
it's quitting time, man.
Yeah,
marks the occasion.
Exactly right. So I am now getting into Shock Top's Twisted Pretzel Wheat, which is a wheat beer with pretzels, I guess. I looked at their page on Untapped, and I'm like, for such a big name, completely blank, zero details about it. Okay. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to bother looking into it any further. And I've noticed it's pretzely, but kind of interestingly nutty. So it's not quite nailing pretzel for me, but it's close. It's pretty solid. And after the show with the Patreon folks, or I don't know, depending on how quickly I drink this, maybe before that, but I'm drinking a collaboration with between Other Half and Parish called TDH Fried Okra, which I believe is triple dry hopped. It's an Imperial New England IPA with all of the greens: Nectaron, Nelson Sauvin, Motueka. Motueka again, this time is Cryo, and Nectaron Cryo. So it's got all of the various greens. It's a great salad. So I can't wait to get into that salad.
Do you have any fried okra to go with your fried okra?
No. I used to get one of the local grocery stores had some like freeze dried or like they were like dehydrated okra, and I really like those as just to munch on. They're great snacks.
You could have got some of those. It's close.
I don't think I think they stopped carrying them for some reason. I'm not sure why, but it would have been great with that. Yeah,
I could see dehydrated okra snacks not being real popular, even with the people that like okra. I could see that not being one that people would gravitate towards. Pickled okra are great. They're still out there.
They carried it for a long time because I bought them for a couple of years. I kind of forgot about them for a while, and I'm like, maybe I was the only one buying them, and I just didn't know it, and I tanked the entire thing. I don't know.
You got rid of the stock. What was the thing? There was this vitamin drink and I forget the name of it, but it came in like a little, like maybe a 60. We got it at the health food store here in Woodstock.
The Daily Blast.
Daily Blast.
Source of Life or something like that.
Yeah. So there was this stuff called Source of Life Daily Blast. And this bottle that I think was probably 12 to 16 ounces was supposed to be 2 servings. And it was like these super powered vitamins. But if you had a cold, if you felt a little run down, if you weren't energetic, this stuff was good. I mean, it legitimately worked. It would give you a kickstart there. And at the time we started buying them, they were like $2.39 a bottle, and they kept running out. And I guess they started stocking more, but one time they ran out. They were out for about a month, and when they got them back in, they went up to like $7 a bottle. And I'm like, Brian, we did this to ourselves. I think we bought so many that they're like, well, these are popular. We need to up the prices on these things.
They were like the Saturday drink. Like you got to perk up and be ready to go and go drink some beers on Saturday. You hit one of those and like you're ready to go. And those, it's really a shame that those went away. I don't think they make them at all now, but those are phenomenal.
They were effective. They legitimately
absolutely worked.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even know. There may have been illicit chemicals in there or something like that, but they were fantastic. I missed those. Those were great.
Cocaine, a little touch of meth, just a sprinkle, a little crack,
some meth, and some vitamin C and some B12. I'm like all the stuff you need to
all your vitamins and nutrients. Absolutely. Well, Nate, what are your beers for this week, sir?
So in my glass currently from Creature Comforts, I've got Social Glue, which is a Danish Pilsner. And I was reading the description of what makes it actually Danish, and they attribute lager yeast being first introduced and distributed to the world from the Danes. So To nod to them, it brewed this beer as a Danish-inspired Pilsner. And then on deck from Founders, I've got their KBS Iced Latte, which is a barrel-aged Imperial Golden Ale. So something that's going to be smooth and creamy, but with a little bit of coffee and vanilla added to it. So looking forward to that.
Okay. I could see. Oh, it is an Imperial Golden Ale. I saw KBS on there. So it's in the KBS family, but it is not a Kentucky Stout. I don't know how I feel about that, man.
Yeah, not quite a Kentucky Breakfast Stout, but it is a Kentucky Breakfast Imperial Golden Ale. KBIGA.
Now they make the white stouts that, I guess it would probably fall into that category the way they're doing it. I don't know how clearly all of those styles are defined.
It's not KBS, it's just BS.
It's just BS.
Yeah,
just BS. That was a good one, Brian.
That's what I'm saying.
Do we have an applause sound effect here? Because maybe I could give you.
I'll wait for it.
Maybe I could give you a little here. How about this? Oh wait, we do.
We do.
There you go.
Taking a bow there. Yes.
Congrats to that. Well, Nate, you have got another style profile for us here. Something that people have said they did enjoy, kind of dialing down on these different beers, and this one is actually a favorite of mine. You don't see them a lot anymore, but they're they're crushable, Nate. What they say, sessionable, crushable, and all that. But we're going to talk about the Vienna style lager.
Yeah, so I thought, it's a little cold. It's a lot of damp outside, at least for us down here in Georgia. So the Vienna style lager, when you're looking at it for the color aspect, you're going to predominantly see it's going to be darker. So like a deep gold, a reddish brown, but it's going to be clear. So even though it is going to be darker in appearance, as far as its clarity goes, there shouldn't be any chill haze. It's definitely not a hazy style lager. We're going to leave that to the ales. And then as far as the perceived malt aroma and flavor, it's going to be more malty, but light on the malt sweetness. And then it should have a light toasted or caramel malt character to it. And then as far as the hop aroma and flavor, you want it to be very low to a low presence, and it's going to be noble style hops. And so usually those are going to be your traditional hops from Europe. So like Fuggle is the only one I can think of off the top of my head. Do you guys have any other noble hops that you can think of in the moment?
There's Goldings, Fuggles, Goldings,
Elder Tower, I think.
Yeah.
So
some of those.
So those kinds of hops, those classic hops that have been around a while, those are going to be the ones that you're going to most notably pick up on. As far as the bitterness go, it's going to be low to medium low. It still is a lager, so it's going to be clean. It's going to be pretty crisp. And then as far as the commercial examples that you're going to see in the market, the one that I see the most here in the U.S. is going to be from Devil's Backbone. It's their Vienna Lager. And then out of Minnesota as well, I've seen it a couple of times. I actually haven't had a chance to try it. From Shell's Brewing, they've got the Fire Brick, which is a Vienna/amber lager.
Aren't some of the more popular Mexican lagers riffs off of Viennas? Or not exactly maybe Viennas, or not called Vienna lagers, but a lot of them are like basically Vienna lagers, or some of them are anyway.
A lot of the classic, like for real Mexican style brewing is there was a lot of Austrian immigrants to Mexico settled there. So when they started local brewing there, the Vienna lager style was one that was picked up and kind of adopted there. So like Dos Equis has, I think it's called Amber Especial or something like that. Negro Modelo.
It's a great
is kind of cited as like a dark Vienna lager style. So yeah, if you like those types of beers, and that's one for me. The Vienna lager is a style that is good if you want something with just a little more kick than your basic Pilsner, but you don't want anything too bold. That just takes it up a notch. Like you said, it's not too sweet, but there's some maltiness in there. Toasty. You may get a hint of caramel in there, but it just brings just a little bit more than that. So, but
it's not going to put you upside down as far as ABV. The range on average is 4.7% to 5.5%. So you're not really getting into it and going to try and get trashed on this. This is just something that gets you a little bit more fuller body than a Pilsner, but not necessarily fuller body as far as your ABV drinking experience.
Right. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Guys, we're going to, Brian?
I was going to say it's a great beer for pairing with food, like a lot of different foods. But anyway, we'll move on.
It's a good one there for sure. All right, guys, we're going to take a little departure. We're going to play a little bit of a game show here right now. Jeopardy right here on Beer Guys Radio. So, and I'm going to give you the answer, and then I'll pause for those of you that want to play at home to see if you can get this. Microbrewer Vinny Cilurzo is credited with making the first double this, a hoppy craft brew with a foreign country in its name.
We have the sound effect.
Yeah, we have to do it ourselves there. But yeah, so this was an actual question on Jeopardy. Brian, you want to give us or this was an actual answer on Jeopardy.
It's an answer. Yeah.
The way this is played, would you like to give us the question?
That's right. Yeah, I can give us the question. It's what is the India Pale Ale? So
there we go, man.
This one made the rounds, and we got a screen capture or screenshot of Vinny giving a thumbs up next to the TV. This was a pretty cool story because Vinny's father worked as a lighting director in Jeopardy back in the late 80s and 90s, and reportedly one of the first dates he ever took his wife on when they were getting starting out was to see a taping of Jeopardy in Hollywood. So him getting on Jeopardy is not only just cool, but it's like it's multiple levels of cool. So this was a great story. Just kind of made you feel good. So it made his day, clearly, possibly his whole year, maybe life. I don't know. It was a pretty cool one.
That, you know what? I got to say, man, that's a pretty big accomplishment. If you get an answer on Jeopardy, that's big stuff there. You know, not just everybody ends up on the blue board. So, you know, congrats to Vinny and Russian River. That's pretty cool. I got to say, I would have been geeked if I was watching it live and saw that come up. I'm like, I know that answer. Yeah. It's like, if we ended up being an answer on Jeopardy, what would the question be? You know what? I honestly have no idea whatsoever. What have we done anything interesting enough to warrant an answer on Jeopardy? I don't know that we have, you know, nothing memorable or
no,
because it would have to be something like this beer podcast originally started as a local radio program in Atlanta, Georgia in 2016.
That's unique enough to identify us. I mean, it's sometimes it's not about how well known it is. It's just like how isolated can they make it? So if you know, and you can answer the question. So sometimes it's about challenge, you know? So
that's what we should do. You know, y'all, our 10th anniversary comes up at the beginning of the next year. And that's what we should do is we should make a Beer Guys Jeopardy and invite all of our longtime listeners and maybe have some kind of contest with it to see who can see who knows the most about this. But you know, something interesting on that I saw something, you know, when Ozzy Osbourne passed, all kinds of coverage on him, of course, but there was a time when he was on one of the late night talk shows and it was a trivia competition where it was his super fan, the guy that claimed to be the biggest like Black Sabbath Ozzy fan ever. And you could tell by the guy's mannerisms, like he wanted to beat Ozzy at this, you know, asking questions about Black Sabbath. And you think about it, some of the stuff these guys may absolutely study. And to Ozzy, it was just something that happened, you know, there. But it was kind of, and I think if I remember right, I think there was a question that they asked and Ozzy gave the answer and the show host was basically said, okay. And you could tell that the guy that was playing against him disagreed with Ozzy's answer to that.
It's like, that isn't the right answer. I know
kind of got to, yeah. So anyhow, fun stuff. Jeopardy, man. Jeopardy. Well, Brian, you have got some interesting news for us here. We're talking about all these brewery closures and I guess maybe looking at some silver lining or as silver as it possibly could be. But apparently with these brewery closures, these offer some unexpected opportunities with trademarks.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about this before, but it's been a rough time. We've heard about a lot of closures and all of those. It sucks. And some of them really sting, like the 21st Amendment, some big names, Iron Hill. A lot of people know their beer. But I came across an article this week in Craft Brewing Business that brings up the potential silver lining you're talking about for breweries that are still chugging along. It's it's weird to think about, but I'm going to put it out there. Simply put, trademarks previously registered by defunct breweries that, breweries that gone out of business are potentially gold nuggets for operating breweries because they have already survived the trademark registration gauntlet. And there's already been a lot of conversation about how weird beer names are ruining craft beer and all that sort of thing. So a lot of these trademark names that are now becoming possibly available maybe are more common because, they had the trademark early. So anyway, yeah, it means that if you're, if you're a brewery right now, if you can get your hands on one of these trademarks, you don't have to navigate such a difficult process of getting, a trademark because it's already been done. You already know that there is one ownership of that. So I'm not sure how I feel about this one. It feels a little bit like grave robbing, but on the other hand, as a brewery, if you ever got a C&D from a now closed brewery, especially if it seemed unreasonable, this is an opportunity for you to reclaim your beer's name if you want to. If you're interested, the lawyer that wrote the article, Tom Dietrich, says there are a couple ways to go about claiming an abandoned trademark, and I'm going to go over them at a high level. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice, but yeah, I got to say that. But the first is just to go out there and attempt to file a new trademark application on the name immediately. When it's declined, and it probably will be, appeal it on the grounds of abandonment. And there's a good chance you're going to get it that way if somebody else hasn't already gotten it. The second is to buy the trademark rights directly from the prior owner. I think I like this idea more. Whoever owns it now. There's the case of liquidations and bankruptcies, and you don't know who owns it. But if you can buy it from the person who owns it and get their blessing, I like the idea more. It feels better to me. But I think the key thing here, and it was stressed in the article, is you want to retain the goodwill that comes with a trademark. That way, it's going to be useful. If you pull some shady business to snag a beloved trademark, and that will probably turn off the customers that the trademark would have attracted. So it's you have the opportunity here, but you got to be really careful about how you do it because you might really turn some people off. But yeah, I mean, if somebody can revive some of these, a brewery that's successful, that's chugging right along, can revive some beers that we love, I don't hate this idea. And this is a way for them to potentially do it.
I don't know, Brian. I don't know. I kind of see what they're saying there, but and Tyler actually chimed in here in the comments with basically what I was saying is, will the customer be expecting a different product from a trademark once owned, be original? And we talked about this like with Anchor Brewing, with them going out, does it, maybe someone else can get steam beer and bring it back, or like their Christmas beer and that. But if people love so-and-so beer from so-and-so brewery, how's the reception going to be bringing that back under another brewery name? I mean, I think there's very little chance that they would nail it exactly as the previous brewery had done. And I could see this as something that would have an initial spurt of people who are super excited to get their favorite beer that was gone. And that's it. That's it. And even if people like that beer, I just don't see the benefit to not just launching it as a new beer, unless it's just to get the attention that it exists.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. Like when you're getting this trademark going after it, you are looking to get some of the notoriety, some of the goodwill, some of the brand, whatever that is, the reputation. Right. Because there are some people that will recognize the brand, and there's some people that, hey, that's their brand. They'll keep drinking it. Maybe they'll notice a difference. They probably will. Maybe they won't. Maybe they won't care. Maybe there's some nostalgia behind it, and people will just, pick it up as a result of that. We've seen it with older brands that have been defunct for years and years and years, and they bring them back, like Champagne Velvet and things like that. Like, yeah, there's nobody around who probably remembers the original, but they're going to drink it because it's a cool throwback. It's got a lot of, I don't know, cachet. It's got a lot of gravitas, something, whatever brands get. Moxie. It's got all the neat stuff that people want to have that they don't have. So, yeah, I mean, I can see that. This is an opportunity. I'm like, 21st Amendment had a lot of really interesting beers out there, and I'm like, a smaller brewery could get some attention by brewing something, especially if they could be relatively true to style. Or another thing that occurred to me, wouldn't it be cool, is if the brewery that takes over it buys it from the previous owners and works with them on the recipe, trying to faithfully reproduce it, and maybe as a tribute to that brewer and brewery. Like, you could do this in a way where you benefit and you give them the nod and the respect that they deserve, and some money for the idea and the IP, that sort of thing.
Right. So not exactly the same, but we have a brewery here in Georgia that did a beer called Hellenbach. And this was back, I think, early 80s, maybe, that they did this. And it was a GABF winning beer, popular in that. But the brewery didn't last that long. They went out a long time ago, but we still know, the gentleman that owned it. Oh, the U.S. Open Beer Championship. So the guy that heads that up, he was one of the original owners of the Hellenbach Brewery. And they, a few years back, partnered with one of our local brew pubs, Max Lagers, and they rebrewed the Hellenbach beer. And so that's something, they brought back a defunct beer. And to a small set of folks in Georgia who'd been here for 40 years or so that remembered it, it was really cool to get the beer again. And for us who are just general beer nerds and saw it, reviving this old style. So, but since that was the original founders of the brewery working with, a friend at a brew pub to do it, you didn't have the same issue with trying to acquire a trademark there. And, I don't know how much time or money and stuff is into it. It just seems like something that probably wouldn't be worth it. But I believe this was an attorney that wrote this article. So, of course, for him, hey,
he has legal services you'd like to offer.
You can do this if you want to. This
is an opportunity, and you can help me. You can hire me to help you do it. And I want to point out once again, this is not legal advice for me. I'm not telling you should.
No, we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I have no idea. I barely know how to do a podcast. So again, don't look to me for legal help.
We're not. Anything we say that has to do with medical, health, or legal, just know that it's not advice or financial, especially not financial.
But definitely not financial.
So,
definitely
beer,
not.
You can take our advice on beer. Yeah. If we recommend a beer, you can take that advice. Well, Brian, how about we give a shout out to our good friends at Truck and Tap?
What a great idea. So I know what the calendar says, and I know what the thermometer has been telling me, but I'm not ready for it to be the holiday season yet or whatever it is right now, which is part of the reason I'm still drinking the heck out of good old sunshiny IPAs. If I can't get it any other way, I'm going to have summertime in my glass. With that in mind, here are my beer picks for the week. Very, very non-seasonal. At Truck and Tap Woodstock, I'm going with Six Bridges Aphelion Illumina IPA. They call it a Cali-style IPA that features Bravo Cryo Crush. I don't know why I said Crush.
Crush? Okay.
Yeah,
all
Cryo
right.
Crush and Mosaic hops. I can feel the day brightening already. It's already affected how I speak. At the Duluth location, I'm getting the Vale's White Ferrari IPA. I picked this one in part of, because of the name White Ferrari. That's amusing. And it's the Vale. That's kind of neat. But also because the New England IPA with Citra and Galaxy hops is just what the doctor ordered right now. And at Truck and Tap Alpharetta, my pick is Who Farted's Everybody Wants Some. I'm pretty excited to see Who Farted beers in the area. It's cracking Mo Mike Nate up already. That's
Who Farted.
For the longest time, I didn't get that pun because it only read their name online, and I just never really said it out. And I think the first time I either said it or heard it, I was like, oh, okay. But let me not get in the way of talking about our good friends at Truck and Tap.
I had a friend in high school that had that as a nickname for a while. But anyway, I'm excited to see Who Farted the beers in the area now. I'm going to laugh at it. It's been a long time since I had one, and they've been great. And you got to love your first sighting being a triple IPA. So I'm all on board with this. And finally, at the Lawrenceville location, I'm going with New Realm's Kick Flipper IPA. This is a good old-fashioned West Coast IPA full of Centennial, Cascade, Citra, and Simcoe, all of those good West Coasty hops. It's brewed by the guy who wrote the book on brewing IPAs, especially West Coast IPAs, so you can't go wrong here. So there you have my sunshiny beer picks for the week. As always, if you'd like to see the full tap list before stopping by, take a look at truckandtap.com. The taps will change quickly, so you never know what new beer might be going on right now. And if you want to see what the food trucks are serving and what events are happening, trivia, karaoke, they just had a costume contest for Halloween. Music, live music, bingo, that sort of thing. You can find that all at truckandtap.com. Everything you need to know can be found at truckandtap.com. So check that out. And thank you to Truck and Tap for your support.
Thank you, Truck and Tap. We always appreciate you very much. Brian, Japanese beer and space. So how in the world do those two things relate to each other?
Yeah, so I'll tell you how. A Japanese brewery named Isakado, and I'm probably saying that wrong, but they're collaborating with the advanced aerospace company Takasago Electric on what they're calling the Space Brewing Project. The goal of the project is to successfully ferment beer aboard the International Space Station, or the ISS, you've probably heard it called. The purpose, in addition, just to see if they can do it, is to study how microgravity affects yeast's fermentation behavior. This understanding, learning from this, is thought to be essential to advancing food production in the future, particularly as we possibly go into space, not to mention supporting the quality of life for people during long-term missions in space. So if the mission's long enough, they're going to have to brew some beer because they're going to want some beer. This will all take place inside of a specialized brewing vessel developed to handle the conditions of space. After the mission is complete, the team will analyze the space-cultured yeast, and the yeast strain will then be used to brew a limited batch of beers for consumers. It turns out this is not the first time someone has fermented beer in space. I had to go Google this because I was like, maybe somebody else has done this first. Turns out they have. Earlier this year, Starbase Brewing in Austin achieved the first successful fermentation in August of this year, and I think we missed this somehow. I don't believe we talked about this.
Yeah.
The project was called Microbrew 1, and it took place aboard the International Space Station, just like this is. Reportedly, the results have already returned from space, and they are currently being analyzed. I didn't see any mention of it in my little quick Googling, but I'm guessing there probably will be some beer produced as a result of this for sale. So I hadn't heard of Starbase Brewing either, so this is cool. I like what they're doing. This is fun. More science and beer, please.
You know, I feel like they've done some other things like in space before. I think they took seeds up and then germinated them on Earth and that. Do you know, have we found out anything, or has there been any breakthroughs or differences from all this stuff we're taking into space?
I don't recall any specifics of it. I know there's been some, I don't recall exactly the design of it, but they came up with a specialized drinking vessel that as a result of experimentation in space. And I can't remember the dimensions of it, but they actually have a vessel that will allow people to drink somewhat normally, not through a straw in space, just by the way it's designed. And I vaguely remember seeing this possibly late at night, possibly while I was having a beer. So I don't remember all the details, but in terms of actual fermentation,
not just fermentation. I'm talking like any kind of, they've taken seeds up and grown plants and done that. I don't know. I know they talked about, I think they've talked about like breeding animals in space, and I don't know if they've had any success with that. But my point is, I know we're trying to do a lot of things in space, but I'm just not sure if we've got any results from any of that.
I'm not sure if we've been able to tell if there's been a significant difference in some of this. I would assume,
that's kind of my point. I don't know.
I would assume zero gravity.
Maybe we're doing all this and they're like, nah, it's beer. It's beer.
I would think that unless there's artificial gravity, you no longer have bottom fermenting yeast because there's not necessarily a bottom anymore or something like that, or top,
I guess.
Maybe it's just like an everywhere fermenting yeast. I don't know because. Well, they're analyzing this, so yeah.
That wouldn't apply to bringing the yeast back down on Earth and fermenting with it here, because then it would behave as normal.
Yeah, this has only been done once.
This is why they do this. They're working all this stuff out.
They're going to find out if the yeast that came back does anything differently. So they call it space culture, whatever that.
The space culture.
Yeah,
that's my culture. Space culture.
Space culture. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Brian, Nate, you probably do too. I think you're old enough to remember these, but you guys remember Randall's? Do you remember when a Randall at a brewery or bar was just like the coolest thing to have?
I have never seen a Randall in a brewery or bar, but the amount of times that you and Brian, but mostly Brian, has spoken about them.
Okay.
I feel like I really missed out on a true beer drinking
have
experience.
I talked about them that much?
Never experiencing a Randall.
World of Beer, all the World of Beers when we had them there. And just to tell you about that, we don't have World of Beer in Atlanta anymore, but all the World of Beers had Randalls. Most breweries would have a Randall. And I know I saw them at Reformation, Burnt Hickory were a couple that I remember the Randalls. But for those who are not familiar with the Randall, this was a device, and I believe they were invented by Dogfish Head. If I remember correctly. But the Randall was something that went in line with the beer. and you would run your hose into one side of the Randall, out the other side of the Randall, and then the beer would tap off of that after running through the Randall. And the Randall could hold really any number of things, to be honest with you. A lot of times it was fruit. They do an IPA and they'd put some, strawberries and melon or whatever in there. Or they may do coffee beans, cocoa nibs, peppers, cinnamon sticks, things like that. And we did in our home brewing, we did kind of a low rent version of a Randall before, but you could take a beer and put it in a French press and put ingredients in there and let it set for a while and then press that out, which gave you an approximation of what a Randall would do there. But all that to be said, there's rumblings that maybe the Randalls are cool again, Brian.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of, and this is just my observation. I've seen probably half a dozen mentions of the Randall in the past 2 weeks, just out of nowhere, and I haven't heard anybody say anything about it in ages. And you already explained what the Randall is: 2-stage thing. Fill it with whatever you want. Sam Calagione came up with it back in 2002, so it's been around for over 20 years at this point. But yeah, I saw an article about it just came out, which is why we're talking about it. Beer and Brewing. They said that they're introducing something called a Renee that is inspired by the Randall. And can you take a wild guess as to what a Renee is, Tim?
I have literally no idea. No idea.
So when you started talking about that's the entire article there, it turns out that a French press to infuse beers with adjuncts is what they're calling a Renee. Something we were in fact doing.
We've done that. We invented that. No, we didn't invent it.
We didn't give it a name though. We didn't give it a name. So yeah, so it sounds really familiar to us for a reason. But anyway, this showing up means that it's time to talk about these again. And this article had some pretty good tips for, how to use it as a home brewer and just some general ideas of how else you could use it. But you don't have to be a home brewer to put it to use. But it is good for prototyping and testing possible adjunct additions to beer without potentially ruining an entire 5-gallon batch. And we did a little of that, just to see what it would be like. Or you can just experiment with adding interesting flavors to commercially available beers. A French press takes however much you want. You don't have to have a ton of beer for this. If you want to know what an Allagash White tastes like with coffee, you can do that. Or a Sweetwater 420 with jalapenos. That's doable. Or you can have a banana cognac Bud Light. That's perfectly doable in a French press. Or
now we're talking, man.
A Renee, so you can do that. So the article has some pretty good tips for success with your, French pressing or Reneeing, however you want to call it. It recommends using a pretty straightforward base beer without a lot of hops or adjuncts. You want to have it fairly clean to see what the impact is going to be. Not necessarily, though. Like if you want to add more muddle to what's muddled, go right ahead, If you're going to add hops, they recommend using whole cones because apparently pellet hops don't work as well. I think it's probably because they get gunked up, they get mushy, and they wind up in the finished beer, so it's not as much fun. If you're going to try it with homebrew, they recommend that you might want to over-carbonate your beer first to compensate for the CO2 you will be losing during the process. I would like to point out, as somebody who's messed around with French presses a lot over the years, that you can reduce some of the CO2 loss by not pushing the French press screen the whole way down through the beer, but just pour through the screen instead, and that will save you a fair amount on that. And that's actually good for French pressing coffee. If you want to avoid the sediment and stirring it all up, you press down to the top of the coffee and gently pour through it. You get a cleaner cup that way. So that's, a little extra bonus.
Pro tips.
And they also recommend you let it set for 5 to 10 minutes. You want it to infuse a bit, so a little action there. I'm curious, Momek, you said you haven't ever seen one, but have you ever tried, a Randall, but have you ever tried French pressing or Reneeing any of your home brews to see what they would be like if you added more stuff to them?
I haven't, but I did see on Jeopardy recently that 2 homebrewers out of Woodstock, Georgia were the ones who invented it. So maybe I could reach out to them for tips on how to Renee my homebrew.
Now we're talking, man.
Was that on Jeopardy already? Wow, that's fast.
It was. A quick one, man. We're making the rounds already. So, we did one time, Brian, we had brewed a Mexican Imperial Stout, highly influenced by Westbrook's Mexican Stout.
Indeed.
And it came out great. I'll pat myself on the back here. It was a fantastic beer, really good. But we put that in the French press. It would, you know what, Sam, I'll give it to you. We put that in the Renee and added some sliced habaneros. And one of our friends had got as part of a gift basket for his birthday. They were bourbon barrel oak chips that had then been charred after. So they were like charred chunks. And what they were made for was you would throw these on top of your coals in a smoker and generate smoke from those. But we put the habaneros, the smoked chips, I think vanilla beans, and maybe coffee beans.
I think some coffee beans too. Yeah.
And guys, let me tell you, it was phenomenal. It was hot. It was hotter than I wanted to go, because that was one of the things we'd like a little more chili kick to this. And we went a little far with that, but in probably 5, maybe 10 minutes in there. And again, this is a style of beer that really didn't need to be heavily carbonated. It had a lot of body to it. So, losing a little bit of carbonation didn't hurt this one. But the end result was phenomenal, was really, really good. So yeah, break out your Renee. So, and you know what? If you use a dark stout, then you can have a stout for breakfast. And if your wife catches you doing it, you can just claim it's coffee. I'm just making some coffee. And if she says, yeah, pour me one too, just, knock it off the counter. I spilt it.
I just spilled it. Sorry. Yeah. This makes me think, Mo Mike Nate, before Orpheus closed, what was the thing that was still that we got? Was that a barley wine or was that something else? It was
a barley wine. Yeah. It was a liter of still barley wine.
It's already still. And now this is a perfect French press / Renee opportunity.
Brian, you underestimate how long that lasted in my cellar. That thing is long gone.
Oh, is it already gone? Baby, I think I probably still have it, because it was like was it like a 750 or something like that?
No, it was a 1 liter in a swing top bottle.
1 liter in a swing top. Okay, yeah.
Now, see, I'm already thinking of things for the plums would be good. Some dark fruit in a barley wine, plums, something along those lines would be nice. Or
it may be a slight insult against Jason, but I'll try to make a still barley wine.
You can still have some of it plain and just screw with the rest of it. Well, it wasn't how he wanted it to be. It was because they were closing and they did not have the opportunity to properly package and carbonate
totally finish it out.
It's like he was just like, I don't want this to be wasted. It's too good, but I can't do anything more with it. So I don't feel like he would be insulted by that. I think he might be intrigued by what we might come up with, especially when you start talking about plums, because we know he ate more plums than most people.
He did. Yeah. That would be it. Now, the one thing I know Jason would not approve of would be white chocolate, because I once asked him to make a white chocolate macadamia stout, and I don't believe he swore at me, but it was pretty clear.
It's close.
That's why I think white chocolate is trash or something along those lines was the statement. But it was so you know what? Do that. Show him who's boss, Nate. Put his still barley wine on some white chocolate there. So
there you go.
We could do it with Dubai chocolate. Dubai chocolate barley wine.
Ooh. Oh, this is perfect. Let's get all the trendy stuff together. What else can we put in there?
Yeah. Now, I want some still sour beer. Like, was it Primitive Ales? The place out in Colorado?
Yeah.
Primitive. And I don't think they're around anymore. I think they merged with somebody else, did something like that. But they did still beer in a box, and they did, bless us with a box there. And boy, I would absolutely love to have some more of that, because it was
they were in the studio with us. It was great.
Yeah, it was good.
And all of that, it was still lambic in a box. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was great. It was
make yourself a creek with that. Like, let's get a little cherry and throw it in there.
We'll add that to the Jeopardy answers there.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, good stuff. Guys, beer and food pairings, we were talking about it earlier with the good old Vienna Lager, that it just goes well with so many things. And a popular beer food pairing is buffalo wings, man. We all love our buffalo wings. We get out there, but there's a little bit of, I'm going to say controversy. I'm going to use that word over what beer to pair them with. And apparently Food and Wine has an opinion on this, on what not to drink with your buffalo wing.
Yeah. Felt like I had to talk about this. It sounds like fake news or rage bait, but yeah, the website Food and Wine says that IPAs are not a good choice for pairing with hot wings. They said hot wings as opposed to buffalo wings. So I don't know about that. I'm not sure I'm buying into this, but I will present their argument and let you decide. They say that the popular pairing of IPAs with spicy food in general is a flavor feud rooted in biochemistry. The isoalpha acids that give IPAs their signature bitterness intensify the heat delivered by capsaicin in spicy food. And instead of soothing the burn, the beer's bitterness amplifies the pain signal. Furthermore, the higher alcohol content of some IPAs, especially lately, can increase capsaicin solubility, spreading the heat, and then also further exacerbating the perception of the beer's bitterness. Instead, the article recommends beers with lower bitterness and crisp, refreshing finishes to pair with spicy food. Some of the examples they mention are like wheat beers, Belgian wits, lagers. All of them have, either like a subtle fruit or subtle spices that they can cool the palate. Malt forward beers like amber ales or milk stouts that have sweetness and body to balance the spice. I'm going to say that if you're getting a milk stout involved in this is maybe the same thing as drinking some milk with the spicy food. I think you're getting some of the same kind of benefit. But they also say that slightly acidic or fruity beers like Berliners and Gozes can add some tartness and refreshment and help out with that. They say that the real ideal pairings for IPAs are rich and savory foods like grilled meats, burgers, and fried foods and sharp cheeses that balance out the bitterness with substance and fat, or citrusy and sweet dishes like citrus glazed chicken. I didn't realize that was a thing, but salads with tangy vinaigrettes, citrus tarts, or lemon bars that echo and harmonize with the IPA. At this point, I have to say they somehow did not include nacho cheese Doritos at this point. That seems like a no-brainer. That is the ultimate food to pair
with or without caviar.
Oh, I mean, obviously with caviar if you can afford it, but without, if that's all you
have
to. Yeah, if you have to. So I do have an initial thought after going through all this. It sounds like someone, who hasn't had an IPA in the last 5 years wrote this article, because IPAs don't have a, quote, signature bitterness anymore. They're all about juiciness and tropical fruits and smoothness and lusciousness and all that, softness. But I don't know. Well, what do you guys think? Are you buying this? Do you think IPAs shouldn't go with hot wings and buffalo wings or spicy food or what?
Well, for one, they did say IPA, not Northeast IPA or hazy IPA or all that. So an IPA, by definition, would still have a signature bitterness. That's
okay.
That's my take on this. I never thought IPA was a good pairing for hot wings, personally. Now, my opinion may not count, as I am not an IPA fan, but I did think they just were not very complementary foods, and they didn't contrast in the right way to make them, the right choice there. Before you even said it, I was thinking maybe like a Hefeweizen. And you know what? Maybe get crazy. Maybe instead of a twist of orange in there, put your little squeeze of lemon in there, or something like that. I think that would go really well. You would cut some of the heat, and buffalo wing sauce is typically made with butter. So you're going to have some fat, you're going to have some heat there. So I think something like that, something crispy, along those lines. I think that would be really good. A brown ale even, I think would go well. But my personal take, again, as a classic IPA hater, is that I do not think they're a good pairing choice for hot wings. I agree with Food and Wine on this one.
Oh, terrible. What if they were lemon pepper wet, Tim? Do you see the potential?
We're going in a different direction here now.
Okay.
And it also depends. Are you talking the butter sauce or the hot sauce lemon pepper wet? Because
I like the 50-50 mix. I know that's not, I think, considered the original.
You need to define what you mean by that, because that is not a clear. You're not being clear in what you're sharing here.
Well, the half buffalo sauce and the half lemon pepper mixed together.
Okay,
like that's you get the two together. That's the way I like it and the way I've had it done a few places. But I understand that it's different. There is a different lemon pepper wet that I think that might be the official or original version of it.
It's debated, and it will continue to be. I believe that there's a joint here in Atlanta that they're lemon pepper wet. We're a little bit of a tangent here, y'all, but it is related. Atlanta is a wing town. I think if we have one, we're taking it from Buffalo somewhat, or we're not. We're doing this in brotherly harmony here with Buffalo. But Atlanta's a wing town, and specifically the lemon pepper wet. But the two schools of thought are one where you use like a butter sauce, just butter, and then lemon pepper seasoning on there. So you get them wet with the butter and then the lemon pepper sticks. And the other one is a mix of like a buffalo sauce, a hot buffalo sauce with lemon pepper, either seasoning or sauce. That's the one I like. Brian mentioned that's the one he likes. But I guess a lot of people, when they say lemon pepper wet, they're thinking of the butter sauce ones. If we're talking the butter lemon pepper wets, Brian, then I think an IPA could be a very good pairing for that.
Okay. Now I agree with that. I still think I'm going to drink an IPA with my.
It
my
doesn't
wings.
matter. You'll drink it with cake, steak.
Yeah.
You know,
heck yeah.
What does IPA
chocolate chip
pair
cookie,
with?
whatever.
Yes,
You know.
Yes. Nate, what's your take on this hot wing IPA controversy?
So I do not typically partake in the spicy stuff. I understand that a buffalo wing is different than a hot wing. In my times of when I've had something spicy, once I've gotten over how unpleasant it is, the last thing I thought about was, oh yeah, I want to bring something that's hoppy and bitter into this equation as well. But I will go back to the lemon pepper wet discussion, and I am the minority of this group because I like the butter lemon pepper wet, and I think an IPA would complement that pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would go along well there. So there, it's something that all depends on your interpretation. What kind of wing? Because out there now they're saying hot wings, so I'm going to take what I call typically a buffalo wing. You got your mild, medium, hot, or crazy or whatever, but your typical buffalo sauce on there. And they said hot wings, so I assume that's what they're going for. But man, we got teriyaki and honey mustard. There's so many directions you can go with your wings these days. And now I want wings. Just a mess, Brian. A mess of wings.
A ton of wings and some IPA to go with it.
Yeah,
I want lemon pepper wet. I have not had lemon pepper wet wings in quite a while. Our particular favorite version of it that may or may not be authentic, but we're here in Atlanta where it was invented. We can say it's a thing.
We can do what we want.
Yeah,
we can do what we want. We had a place here in Atlanta that was famous for making a lemon pepper wet pizza, and I just saw recently they closed.
Oh no,
it was one. So I never got to have the lemon pepper wet pizza.
That's terrible. May have to try doing it on your own, man. Make your own lemon pepper wet pizza.
I could do that. Brian, beer has so many values. It's helpful in so many areas of life. And now beer's value as a social lubricant is now important in a health debate.
Yeah, an interesting argument was made this week on the health benefits of beer in the Financial Times. And it's coming from Dolph Vanderbrink, the CEO of Heineken. He argues that beer's role as a social lubricant, as you said, that helps bring people together is crucial, especially in the context of current issues like loneliness and the mental health epidemic. He further argues that the public discussion about the health effects of alcohol consumption, it lacks nuance and is not always reported in a very balanced way. I think I agree with that for sure. And that there is complexity of the relationship between alcohol and health that is overlooked. But he also says the discussion should be first focusing on the harmful use of alcohol before discussing the possible benefits of moderate consumption. And I thought this was an interesting take, and it was in the Financial Times of all things by a CEO of a beer company. What do you guys think? Is this a good argument? Is this actually sound, or is this just great beer propaganda? I don't really know at this point.
So, Brian, I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name that we had on that was kind of an advisor to various health organizations and such around the world.
Oh, yeah.
He mentioned that there is increasing scientific data that is saying any alcohol consumption is bad consumption. So his goal, as he mentioned, was to advise these agencies about drinking as being very important culturally as well. So, yes, there's the direct health impacts, but that we had to also remember that there was a lot more to it than just, drink beer, not good for liver or whatever it may be, that there was a lot of cultural significance to, brewed beverages, beer and such. And so with that said, it seems to be that there is some support from the scientific community on that aspect. And I definitely could see that as a social thing. And, Brian, you know what? Here's something I think about. Our friends at Halfway Crooks. There is nowhere else on this planet that I could set on top of a rooftop patio with a liter of beer and cheer excitedly with a group of people for sheep herding.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
And you know what? Time. We're up there and they've got sheep herding on TV, and me and 50 strangers are all geeked and talking about it and laughing and joking at that.
It's fantastic.
And you really have to look at that for just the how good that is for the soul to be not to get hippy dippy here, but going out, having a drink. And it's not the alcohol that I'm consuming, but the environment and having that beer that goes along with it. So yeah, I'm on board with this, Brian.
I think it's sound. Yeah, definitely not medical advice. And my other thought was, after reading this, is he going to get in trouble for possibly prescribing beer to treat mental health issues? Because I could totally see somebody making this argument, especially somebody who's very anti-alcohol. I'm like, yeah, he's got to be careful. But he did lay out that, like, hey, we got to be concerned about harmful use as well. So I think he couched his argument reasonably well. But I think yeah, man, there's benefits. And again, people in other countries, I'm assuming, old Dolph Vandenbrink is not American. It's not quite as hardcore with the people that come at you for saying something, he's talking about mental health advice. And they're not as persnickety as we are here in other countries about that kind of thing. So that could well be. Yeah.
Yeah. But look, hey, I'm not saying to go out and get lit up to treat your depression. I'm just saying if you go out and have a beer with friends and you unwind and relax in that there's benefit to that.
Happy hours are great. They're good for morale. That's the reason why.
It's in the title, guys. It's happy hour. Have a beer, be happy.
Wings are half price, man. The beer's flowing. Everybody loves it.
Don't have an IPA with the hot ones. You're good.
That's right. Yeah.
I've worked at a lot of places that had happy hours, either officially or unofficially, some with beer, some without. But generally speaking, were all beneficial. Like the beer just made it a little easier. Yeah.
Well, we've done them at work where we get on. Again, my whole team is remote. We're literally spread around the country, but we've done happy hours where we get together. We actually did one recently where they had a cocktail class. They had someone tell us how to make various cocktails and also offered some NA options there for people that chose not to drink. But the big thing with all of it is we got together as a group where we were chatting and interacting and weren't focused on work there for 30 minutes. So good stuff. But y'all, with that said, happy hour or not, our time here is done. We thank you very much for hanging out with us. We always appreciate it. And we hope that you have a very good week. And don't forget to drink local. Cheers.